I have noticed in past movies and television shows, 2014 and beyond that, well, after that, I have noticed that there are two elements that can make or break a TV show, mostly TV shows that are based on fantasy. And I'm talking about the human element and the romantic element. Unfortunately, in the American culture, we have a tendency to oversaturate our shows with these two elements, and it sometimes can make or break the show. There have been a few movies as well as shows that have had some great success amongst the years, with these elements being down to a minimum. The biggest success of them all is Star Wars. The entire saga, whether you hate the prequels or you love the prequels, and of course, everybody loves the original trilogy. Either or, these elements were at a minimum. Yes, there were humans inside the movies, but it wasn't about the humans. It was about the overall fight. We had an opportunity to see different worlds. We had an opportunity to be immersed in these worlds. And even the aliens inside the movie were, or even the aliens in the movie were part of the overall cast, even though they were secondary characters. They still represented that entire saga really well. And it didn't really so much, you didn't feel like you had to put that in there. It was something that kind of grew over time. The human element as well as the romantic element was something that grew over time for you to be able to appreciate it. People may disagree about the prequels, but we all knew where it was going to lead. And either or, I still think they did it well, especially in the final movie, Revenge of the Sith. I think they did it very well, but it's not really a critique on that. It's about these two elements. Now, another movie in 2014 that did very well with these elements being at a minimum was Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes, it was full of humans, and it was at a completely different time frame in the universe, but it wasn't all about the humans. It was about the galaxy itself. The galaxy itself was a huge character, as well as the overall storyline for those that actually do know the lore. I don't know the lore, but I know I had a lot of fun watching that movie, and it didn't focus so much on Star-Lord. It did, but it did it in a good way. It focused not only on Star-Lord, but on Gamora, on Drax, it's Rocket, as well as Groot. It actually focused on the overall main cast and then the secondary characters, and it blended it in really well. It didn't force anything between Star-Lord and Gamora. It was actually done fairly well, and it may be something that grows over time for you to be able to appreciate it. But that movie overall did not so much focus on Star-Lord. It focused on the entire galaxy as well as the overall plot, which what made it great. And honestly, I believe that if movies actually did stick to that, then there will be more successes. But of course, 2014, I am talking about 2014 because it's 2015 now. Not a lot of movies came out yet. It is January. So the worst success I'm going to pretty much talk about in 2014, as well as some movies beyond, is definitely two franchises that I love the most. And that is Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I can talk about Michael Bay all day and what a disaster of a director he is and just bash him throughout this whole video, but I'm not going to do that because it's not about that. It's about the one thing that he's notorious about, and that is about involving the human angle. That's the biggest problem. I'm not saying that adding humans is a bad thing, but it has to be done right. When it comes to fantasy movies that are based upon these creatures that are not necessarily, say, from Earth, you want to focus more on them and somehow blend the human element in there and not just make it all about the humans. I know that the human race has not really experienced a lot of alien life, and it is something that is completely, well, it's something that we can actually create in our own minds about what aliens will look like and make our own universe if we are open to that. As for the Transformers universe, unfortunately, the movie itself was way too focused on Sam, as well as being focused on some of the other characters they added in the fourth one. And it was too much focused on the humans and human life instead of being focused on the Transformers, which is something that I really did want to see, and it just made it off balance. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I will say this. They did it right when it came to the Turtles. The personality was great, but unfortunately, they put too much focus on April O'Neil, as well as everybody trying to jump her bones. Now, if it was somehow made a balance in the way that they were actually, if Michael Bay actually embraced the Turtles universe and was able to blend that in, and honestly, I would rather see her with Casey Jones than see her one of the Turtles. By the way, I'm not getting into that. The thing is that if we were able to take the human element and blend it in slowly, not just force it in there and try to wedge it in there and try to make us see all these things All I'm saying is if you were able to embrace the universe and able to blend it in slowly and build it up over time, giving the humans a reason to fight and making more humans besides April, as well as Vernon and possibly Casey Jones or whoever in the universe, more aware of what's going on, then it might be a better movie. Not to mention the main characters will grow from this. I think that would be a great premise. Now, as well as the romantic angle, sometimes this can be misused and abused greatly. Hence the movie Thor. It took me completely out of Thor because it just felt so force-fed between Thor's character and the chick he fell in love with. I don't care much about her because I really consider her a minor. But either or, there was no chemistry amongst the actors as well. Nothing between Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth. There was nothing there. You couldn't feel anything there, and it felt really forced. It didn't feel like falling in love, it felt like falling in lust. You just felt like she wanted to jump his bones, and that's all she wanted to do. And it was just force-fed. Not to mention, it kind of took out of the action. This was for the first movie. And it kind of took me out of wanting to see the second, and I didn't really necessarily care about the second because she was there. But besides all that, that was something that really was irrelevant in the movie, as well as the human element itself being irrelevant in the movie. Because this is something that should have started off being a secret, and then the human element should have been blended in. Maybe people agree with me, they may not. But honestly, I think that it was just done, it just wasn't done right. That's just me, personally. And if you're not really intrigued in the first movie, you're not going to be intrigued to see the second. And I think that these two elements were just completely out of whack, and that's pretty much why the movie, in my opinion, in my mind, wasn't all that great. It may have sold $1 million, but either or, I just think it wasn't done that well. But let's go on to TV. TV has so much fantasy out there, so many things from the DC and Marvel universe that people are watching, including Green Arrow and The Flash. Honestly, guys, I really haven't seen those, so I'm not going to really talk about it, but there is one show that I absolutely love, that I watch a lot since it came out. Well, not really since it came out a long time ago, but either way, I love this show, and I'm talking about Doctor Who. Doctor Who is one of the shows I absolutely love. I actually got into it while watching The Ninth Doctor, and I'm not going to say it's the writer's fault. I'm not going to blame anybody, but I know that when I saw it, when The Ninth Doctor came along, they blended it so well between the Doctor being the last Gallifreyan ever in existence to being like in the human world. They blended it so well with the companions. And I know the companions are meant to be some sort of a human element for us to relate to, but the way that they did it, they actually had great chemistry between the Doctor and the companions on down to the 12th Doctor. It's kind of difficult to say that this whole season is bad, but I will say it puts too much focus on the human element. Honestly, the latest companion that's out there is Clara. I have no problem with her as an actress. She was great when it came to Matt, but I felt like that honestly they had too much of the companion and not enough Doctor. The one thing that I would love to see is I would love to know a lot more about the Doctor as well as his history, and possibly know that after seeing the 50th anniversary, knowing that Gallifrey is safe just in a pocket of the universe he can't get to, that possibly we may be able to see more elements of his people coming out in the series. That would be great. And also, they have a great way of blending the human element in with some with romantic interests. This time, it's not going to be about the Doctor, but this time they actually did put too much focus on the companion. And I would love to actually see that to be a better blend, but unfortunately it isn't. And I know they're saying it's too soon, but hey, season 8 is over, so it's time to move on to season 9. Season 8 was not that great. Let's be honest, it wasn't. There was way too much focus on the companion. There was way too much teaser about the companion being a Doctor, and there was way too much focus on the companion moving on to another life. It wasn't enough Doctor. I'm sorry, it wasn't. That was one of the biggest fails that I've ever thought that this show would ever have, but unfortunately, all shows are not perfect. But this show, yeah, it really did surprise me. Throughout all the years, this show really was spot on from my own view. From Doctor 9 on down to Doctor 12. All I know is they put way too much focus on Clara, and they put less focus on the Doctor. And I really feel that not only in movies, but also in TV, if they were able to make the human element kind of minimum, start off to be small and make it grow as time goes on, I really feel they can make not only a better picture, but also a better show.